Welcome, everyone. My name is Megan McDonough, and I am the Executive Director of Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity. I'm joined here today by volunteers from our Family Selection Committee for this information session about how to apply for home ownership with our affiliate in Western Massachusetts. I'm also joined by Allison, our Spanish interpreter. So please raise your hand if you'd like us to turn on the interpretation function. We'd be happy to do so. So let's jump in. Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization that builds strength, stability, and self-reliance through affordable home ownership. We do this by building simple, sturdy, energy-efficient homes and selling them to low-income families and individuals. Habitat for Humanity is an international organization, but our local affiliate builds exclusively in Hampshire and Franklin counties in Western Massachusetts. The belief of all Habitat for Humanity organizations is that everyone deserves a decent place to live. That belief is what drives volunteers to get involved and to help build homes with their neighbors. This common goal allows us to raise funds and to make the cost of buying a home from Habitat less than what you will find elsewhere. We are just one part of a larger movement to try and help people find a place to call home. Today, we are taking applications for 2 homes. For those not selected for this specific opportunity, please consider applying again in the future. We also have a list of additional housing resources we can provide to you. The focus of today's information session is to give you all the information you need so you can decide if you want to invest your time in applying with Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity for a home in Pelham, Massachusetts. We want to answer your questions about eligibility and about the application process. You can ask clarifying questions at any time by raising your hand, and we will have time dedicated to Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you can use either the Q&A or the chat function in order to enter your questions. Are you guys seeing the Q&A on the screen? Okay, great. If you would prefer to ask your question verbally, then you can raise your hand and we can unmute you. So we have a couple new people who have joined. So I'm just going to ask Allison, our Spanish interpreter, to introduce herself again.
Sí, hola a todos. Si alguien necesita interpretación en español, favor de avisarnos en el chat o usar la función de levantarse la mano.
Great. I think we'll keep going. Corey, over to you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity is building 2 single-family homes on Cadwell Street in Pelham. One is a single-story, 2-bedroom home that will be adaptable for home buyers with mobility impairments, and the other is a 2-story, 3-bedroom home. Located in the Pelham Village Center, the homes are a short distance from the Pelham Public Library and local elementary school. Pelham is a rural community just a few miles down the road from the town of Amherst. PVTA buses run on a limited schedule to the community center building, also within short distance. Habitat homes are modest and simple with small square footages. The homes will be energy efficient and built to Energy Star standards. The homes will be all electric and heated with an air source heat pump. Outdoor storage in an attached shed will be provided. The homes will be built on a slab, so there will be no basement storage. There will also be no attic storage since the attic will be reserved for insulation. Basic appliances will be provided with each house. There will not be a garage. Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity takes all the risks and responsibility throughout the construction process. We don't build custom homes, but we will make reasonable accommodation for folks with disabilities. So if this sounds like somewhere you might want to live, the next question is, will you meet the eligibility criteria for the project? We are committed to reviewing all applications with the same criteria to make sure that all applicants are treated fairly and have the same access to this opportunity. This means we do have strict rules for eligibility because we want to avoid any personal biases affecting the outcome. When we say this is an equal housing opportunity, we mean it. But equal housing doesn't mean everyone is eligible. It means that all eligible applicants will be treated equally. If you're filling out your application and thinking, my situation doesn't fit in these boxes, then we encourage you to provide additional information. The eligibility guidelines are firm, but we want to make sure we are understanding your situation as best we can. Before you apply, we can answer general questions about program rules, but to get specific answers on your circumstances, you may need to apply and submit documentation for us to review. Franklin, Hampshire Habitat for Humanity eligibility criteria are organized in 3 areas: housing need, ability to pay, and willingness to partner.
Thank you, Corey. Let's talk about housing need, income. Housing need can present itself in many ways: living in substandard housing, being homeless, being overcrowded in your current housing, paying more in rent than you can afford, etc. But the primary way we evaluate your housing need in your application is by asking if you're under the maximum income for the project. The cost of homeownership is so high in our area, we've calculated that anyone earning below 60% of the area median income cannot afford to purchase an average price home here. We do not evaluate who has the most need or is in the worst case circumstances. So what is the maximum income? The maximum income varies by a family size and is adjusted every year before we market a new project. We get statistics from HUD to determine the maximum income numbers before we market a new project. You can see the maximum income limits for this project on the first page of the application packet. We calculate gross household income from all sources when we review your application. Gross income means the amount you get paid before taxes are taken out. Your take-home pay is less, but we are looking at the top line of your paycheck. So the income from all adults, anyone over 18 in your household, needs to be under the amount shown in the chart. For example, for a family of 4, the total income for the household needs to be $78,900 or less. In some households, income will come in the form of wages, paychecks, but in another household, there may be child support, veterans benefits, disability income, or other sources. Please disclose all sources in your application. You don't want to be disqualified later because you thought something didn't count. We follow written standards from state agencies and funders on how to calculate income. And there are some exceptions for things like one-time payout from insurance or food benefits that don't get counted in the gross household income. When in doubt, disclose and ask questions. Housing need assets. In addition to the maximum income, there are 2 more housing need criteria we look at. Are your assets under $75,000? Are you a first-time home buyer? Assets are physical things you might own, like a rare stamp collection, a car, or a home, but may also be financial accounts like checking, savings, retirement savings accounts, and investments. On your application, we ask you to list all your bank and investment accounts so we can add them up to see if the value is more than $75,000. We exclude from the $75,000 asset limit personal property, things like your clothing, furniture, car, etc., that you use in your daily living. We do include personal property when it's being held as an investment. If you have vintage cars that you collect or gold bars or something else being held as an investment, you need to disclose it. Typically, these are things worth more than $1,000 that you could turn into cash if you sold them. Foreign assets need to be disclosed as well. We also need you to disclose any cash or asset that can be turned into cash. If most of your savings is in a shoebox under your bed, count up that cash and disclose it as an asset. If you have a retirement savings account that could be liquidated, even if you don't want to, then disclose it. We will count the value of the retirement account after penalties. When in doubt, disclose and ask. We are happy to answer any questions. Marianne, you're muted.
Let me try that again. Thank you. The final item we look at to evaluate housing need is to ask if you are a first-time home buyer. We use a state definition of this term that you can find on page 17 of your application packet. If you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer, even if you have actually owned a home in the past. There are also a couple of other exceptions, like for displaced homemakers after a divorce, etc. If you aren't sure, ask. So, you have a housing need. Your income and assets are under the maximum, and you meet the state definition for being a first-time homebuyer. The next question we ask is, does the applicant have the ability to pay an affordable mortgage? What we mean by affordable mortgage is you will not spend more than 30% of your income on your housing expenses at the time you buy your house from Habitat. The housing expenses include this 30% number. They are your monthly mortgage loan payment, property taxes, and homeowner's insurance. It does not include things like utility bills, home maintenance, snow removal, or other ownership costs. The biggest difference financially from renting to home ownership is that you are taking responsibility for home repair, maintenance, and increased costs over time. The subsidy that the community puts into a Habitat project helps make sure the initial cost of purchasing a home is affordable, but does not insulate you from cost increases over time. For the very low income, a subsidized rental may provide more security than the unknowns of home ownership. You will have to decide if the risks of home ownership are worth the benefit to you. To determine if you meet the application eligibility criteria around ability to pay, we will look at 2 factors, income and credit history. For every project, Habitat sets a minimum income requirement. This number can change from project to project and year to year. But for this project, the minimum income requirement is that the gross income of applicants is at least $36,000 a year. In most cases, the gross household income number we use to determine if you are under the maximum income for housing need is the same number we look at to determine if you have the ability to pay an affordable mortgage. There are some exceptions. For ability to pay, we are going to look at only the income of the applicant and co-applicant if there is one, not all the adults in the household. The applicants on the application are the people who intend to purchase the house and borrow money with a mortgage loan. There may be additional adults who will live in the home with you who are not going to be co-owners and co-borrowers. Income from these other adults counts towards housing need eligibility criteria, but not the minimum income for determining the ability to pay. Not everyone's income is clear, consistent, and regular. We may need to ask for additional information if your situation is not clear based on the documents submitted. Some examples that come up during reviews. If someone is self-employed, we need to see a 2-year history of their returns. A 2-year history of their tax returns. If someone is employed at a job that will be ending when they graduate college, like an on-campus internship, then we will need to look at how much longer they will be in school. If someone is supposed to receive child support, but doesn't receive it regularly, they may ask us to not include that in the ability to pay calculation. These are just a few examples, but when in doubt, disclose and ask. We can answer general questions about the policy before you apply, but in order to answer specific questions about your specific income situation, we will need you to submit documentation with your application for us to review.
In addition to your income, we will also look at your credit history. A credit report will show all your debt for things like mortgages, auto loans, student loans, credit cards, or other revolving debt. It's important to make sure there aren't any errors. We encourage all applicants to get a free credit report from annualcreditreport.com so that you can review the information on the report before you apply. But Habitat will pull its own report for review. You do not need to submit a copy of your credit report with your application. The first thing we look at when reviewing your credit history is what are the minimum monthly payments you need to make each month on your debt. We are looking to see that your housing costs plus your monthly debt payment will not exceed 40% of your income when you buy your home from Habitat. If your income to debt ratio is over 40%, you do not meet the ability to pay eligibility criteria. The next thing we look at is whether or not you have a history of making your payments on time. If you have multiple accounts and collections with large balances and late payments, you may not meet our ability to pay criteria. Those other debts could impact your ability to pay your mortgage on time. We do not require a specific credit score to be eligible, but if your score is very low, it may be an indicator that you have some work to do to be homeownership ready. If you have no credit score because of a lack of credit history, we will require you to submit alternative credit documentation. This is typically 12 months of records from at least 2 sources showing that you have been making on-time payments for rent or utilities. No credit is better than bad credit, but you need to demonstrate your ability to pay with this alternative documentation. We recommend that people who are unsure about their credit contact HUD certified housing counselor to go over credit and budgeting. Local nonprofits like Valley CDC, Wayfinders, or the Franklin County Regional Housing and Redevelopment Authority have certified counselors on staff. You do not need to pay someone to repair your credit. Housing counseling from a HUD certified counselor should be free.
All right, so you're excited about the project Habitat is building. You've reviewed your credit and your income and think you might be a good fit. Now there's one more eligibility criteria to consider: willingness to partner. The first way we evaluate your willingness to partner is the effort you put into your application. Do you submit the application by the deadline? Is it complete? If we ask for additional documents or clarification, do you supply it by the deadline? Communication is key. Don't give up, communicate. The rest of the willingness to partner eligibility criteria comes during construction of the home, when you complete the partnership requirement and then agree to the final restrictive purchase terms. So let's get into describing the process of applying. The application packet includes useful information about the Habitat process for you to read and important forms for you to fill out. Please do not skip any sections when filling out the application. Write none or not applicable if something doesn't apply to you. The last 2 pages of the application packet is a checklist of supporting documents that may be needed for us to evaluate your application. Things like pay stubs, bank statements, and tax returns. Do not submit any original documents, only copies. The application deadline for this opportunity is Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. You need to submit a signed application by this deadline to be considered. The application can be submitted online, dropped off in person at our office, or postmarked by the deadline. After your application is received, Habitat's Family Selection Committee members review it for completeness. If there is enough information, we will take a look at your income and run a credit report. If more information is needed before or after the initial review, we will reach out with a request by post and email. This request for additional information will have a deadline. It's very important to provide the information by the deadline or you can be disqualified. If you need more time, reach out and ask for an extension. If income and credit eligibility meet the eligibility criteria, a virtual or in-person interview will be scheduled. The interview is an informal opportunity for a one-on-one conversation with volunteers on the Family Selection Committee to ask questions about the Habitat program and confirm your application is unchanged. All households that have met the eligibility criteria will be recommended to our local Habitat's Board of Directors for inclusion in the lottery. For this project, the lottery preferences are as follows. 1, households with a disability who need units with accessible or adaptable features, such as a one-story home for a household that includes a person with a mobility impairment, requiring one-story living as a reasonable accommodation. 2, households that need the number of bedrooms offered. If no eligible applicants meet these lottery priorities, other eligible applicants will be chosen. You will be notified of the date and time of the lottery, and you are welcome to observe the lottery if you wish. Each applicant will be assigned a number for the lottery, and names will not be announced in the public lottery. The applicant selected in the lottery will be called individually after the lottery to hear the good news and be invited to partner with Habitat.
If selected in the lottery, you will be invited to sign a partnership agreement to participate in the Habitat program while your future home is under construction. The main partnership requirements include 1, each future homeowner completing 250 hours of sweat equity, which we'll talk about further in a couple minutes. 2, each future homeowner completing a first-time homebuyers class. 3, making a down payment of $1,000 in monthly $100 installments during construction. 4, maintaining your income and credit eligibility as determined during the initial application phase. And 5, purchasing homeowners insurance and applying for a mortgage as the home purchase date approaches. Once the partnership requirements are completed and the house is nearly completed, you will receive a letter with the final home price not to exceed the advertised price of $100,000 and an estimate of your monthly housing costs, which will not exceed 30% of your income at the time of purchase. One part of the Habitat partnership we get lots of questions about is our sweat equity requirement. Habitat homes are built with a combination of professional and volunteer labor, including your own. Future homeowners, once selected, sign up for volunteer shifts alongside community volunteers. No construction experience is necessary. Sweat equity is a big-time commitment, but a very rewarding experience. You get to learn how your house is built, meet volunteers, and feel a sense of accomplishment from making your own home ownership dreams come true. Each adult has to put in 250 hours with a maximum of 500 hours total. Friends and family can chip in some of the hours. If you have physical limitations due to a disability, reasonable accommodations can be made to your sweat equity requirements, and we'll work with you on a custom sweat equity plan that meets the overall goals for the program and matches your abilities. If at any time before you purchase your home, you decide that the Habitat program is not for you, we will refund you any down payment funds, but we cannot give you back your time that you invested in sweat equity. Time must be freely given.
Thanks, Marianne. Participating in Habitat for Humanity's program is a unique experience. The community comes together and helps build alongside you a stable place to put down roots. The sales price is less than market value and typically less than the cost of construction. Additional down payment assistance or mortgage assistance will make sure that that initial monthly payment is affordable. In exchange for this investment, an affordability restriction is put on your home. This limits the resale value to a price that will be affordable to the next family. You will gain equity each month you make mortgage payments, but you will not see the market appreciation that a non-restricted home might see. When you're ready to sell your home, you get to pay it forward to the next family that needs an affordable place to call home, and you can sell at any time. If you are willing to accept the restrictions on resale, put in your sweat equity time, and think you meet the eligibility criteria, we would strongly urge you to apply. We typically see lots of inquiries about our home, but the number of people that complete the application is smaller, and the number that are eligible for the lottery even smaller. It's a narrow window of eligibility, so if you think you might fit, the odds are high you could be selected. For those that think this might not be the program for them, we've got a handout with additional housing resources for you to pursue. And I'd encourage everyone here to advocate for the creation of more housing in our communities. The housing crisis is very real, and the demand is greater than the supply of affordable options. Thank you for your patience as we do what we can to help the next family find a home. We're now going to move on into our question and answer period. So if you have any questions, you can either click raise your hand or use the chat to put in your questions, and then the panel here can answer them live. And a big thanks to Katja, Marianne, and Corey for reading the presentation today and being volunteers on our family selection committee. Thank you to Sophie, our intern, who's kept the slides moving. I'll start us off with a question we got at the last in-person session. Katja, you work in the mortgage industry. One of the questions was about if you've had foreclosure in your past.
Yes, we have.
So how long does someone have to wait before they
Good
can?
question. Typically, after foreclosure, after it was discharged, 4 years waiting period
Usually a
before
4-year
you can
waiting period
reapply.
is what you said.
Yes.
Great. Another question that came in through the Q&A was, how long is the mortgage? And typically, most of our home buyers will have a 30-year mortgage that will be affordable to them and is a fixed rate mortgage. I see another question in the chat, which is about whether or not the monthly mortgage payments are interest-free or if interest is charged on the mortgage and financing.
I can answer that question.
Sure, Katja.
Yeah, so no, it's not interest-free, but the interest usually much lower than conventional rate that you see on the website of lenders. So you do your monthly mortgage payment does include principal and interest payment, and then on top of that, property tax and homeowners insurance as well. So that will be your full housing payment to the bank.
And I think one of the reasons that question is being asked is Habitat for Humanity, our affiliate, we've been building homes since 1989 in Western Massachusetts. And in the earlier days of our affiliate, Habitat itself did all the first mortgages. And when we issue the mortgage, when Habitat for Humanity issues a mortgage, we don't charge interest. So we definitely have Habitat for Humanity homeowners who are paying no interest on their loan. But the cost of construction has gone up quicker than those repayments come back to us. So we have primarily moved to partnering with local banks to provide mortgages, but still keeping the monthly affordability the same. So we still are looking at the same monthly payments to meet the affordability standards. Any other questions? When are we going to finish these homes? That's a good question. So, the two homes in Pelham, the foundations have already started to be poured, so construction has begun. And we expect to finish the homes in the summer of 2027. Katja, can you explain a fixed rate mortgage?
Sure. So there are two different mortgage programs. There's a fixed rate mortgage and there's an adjustable rate mortgage. Fixed rate mortgage means that your rate is not going to change during the loan term, typically 30 years. So you can't expect it to go up or down. It's going to be fixed for the full term that you have this mortgage.
So the interest rate doesn't change. The monthly payment on your principal remains the same for 30 years.
Correct.
Your property taxes or homeowners insurance costs can change over time. So that can make the monthly payment that you have towards housing change, but what you're paying back to the bank will not change. If someone has, there are some households who have specific religious restrictions on paying interest. And if that is the case for your household, please send me an email at apply@FH Habitat. I'll put that in the chat as well. So let me know if that is part of if paying interest, even if the monthly payments are exactly the same, if that is a barrier to participation, I will review Habitat's capacity and policy around whether or not we can make an accommodation for religious purposes. But it is something we have done in the past, but we're limited by our financial capacity of whether or not we can do that for this project. Any other questions? Well, these were good questions. How do you pay for it? How much it's going to cost? When is it going to be done? These all things seem like things a responsible homeowner would want to know. So I think you're off to a great start. You're here getting information. You can go to the website, fhhabitat.org, to find a copy of the application you can print out if you just want to do it on paper, or you can fill it out online. Either one is completely fine. We have no preference. We want you to do whatever easiest for you. And if more questions arise while you're in the mode of filling out your application, then I encourage you to email, and I'll put the email in the chat again, or give us a call. And if you don't reach us on the phone when you're able, you can always text or email and say, I'd like to set up an appointment to get some questions answered, if that might be easier to find than playing phone tag. And Sophie, thanks for switching to this slide just as a little bit reminder about how to get the documents to us. If you're doing paper, you can mail the application. Make sure it gets sent to our PO box that's shown on the screen here. And your application must be postmarked by August 4th and received within a reasonable time within a few weeks. So you can also, if you're nervous about the mail, you can drop off your paper application. The picture on the left, if you applied with us in the past, our office has moved. We have a new office in the Florence Brushworks Arts and Industry building. It's that big white mill building. And we're in room number 159. So you want to look for the sign that says East or Main Entrance. You go straight down the hallway from that entrance to the back, and the door to our office is right next to the stairs. And there's a black mailbox, secure mailbox that's locked and bolted to the wall, where you can drop off application materials at any reasonable hour, even if no one is in the office. That locked mailbox is right there by our office door. It's a black box, and you can drop off materials there. Or if you have digital copies of things, you can use our website to submit your materials. Well, if there's no other questions, then we'll let everyone enjoy their Saturday and appreciate your
Megan, there is one question.
Oh, there is. Thank you. What's the typical value of these houses? That is a little bit of a trickier question. So these houses are marketed as not to exceed $200,000 for a sale price. And there is a mathematical formula in the deed restriction that limits the resale price. So the reason for that is the average home price in Pelham is over $500,000. So a smart person would buy this house and sell it the next day if there was no deed restriction and profit from the market appreciation between the discounted price. But instead, we're building houses for people to live in. And so we will sell it to you for a price that is less than the market value. We can get an appraisal done when construction is complete, but in general, I have not seen any appraisals come in lower than the price that we're offering. That in homes in this area, the values are very high. And so even though Habitat homes are simple, they're not extensive square footages, but they are new, energy efficient, and sold at an affordable price.
Megan, there's a request if the photo of the project can be put on the screen again.
Yeah, and it's a rendering. So that basically means the architects who designed the floor plans for these houses put this into their computer model to show what the houses would look like. So you can see one of the houses is going to be a single story. So if someone has mobility impairments, that would be the one to prioritize for you. And that one has 2 bedrooms, a single story. And then the 2-story house has 3 bedrooms on the second floor and a kitchen, dining, and half bath on the first floor. Both of the houses have attached sheds for storage. You can see the shed for the 2-story in this rendering. And on the 1-story, there's also an attached shed, but it's on the other side of the house, so you just can't see it in this picture. Sophie, did I include floor plans at the very end of the presentation?
Yeah, they're right on the next slide.
Oh, there they are. Okay, so yeah, this shows a little bit of this isn't an exact promise. We could still make construction changes, but it shows you a little bit of how the layout is planned at this point. The living, dining, and kitchen area is fairly open, and then there's two bedrooms at the end. The shed is attached with a little covered area next to it for access, and the driveway would come up next to the side of the house near that side entrance. You want to show the two-story one? Yeah, and the two-story floor plan has the stairs go up to a landing, and there's a full bathroom upstairs and three bedrooms. And then on the first floor, there is the kitchen, bathroom, and then open living dining area. And Habitat in general, we post applications. We have them open for at least 60 days when we're starting a new construction project. But so you should, if you're not sure Pelham is right for you, but you're still interested in Habitat, check back again in the fall or winter and see. We usually do application cycles once or twice per year when we have a new project getting started. I'm going to put in the chat another link on our website, which is to other housing resources and some general information on home ownership and other affordable housing resources. Like if you're trying to find an affordable rental, the Housing Navigator website is a really great one to find affordable rentals across the state of Massachusetts. And we do have another question here, which is, will they have solar panels like in the picture? Yes, we are partnering with a local worker-owned cooperative called PV Squared of Greenfield and including solar panels in the purchase of the home. So there'll be no extra cost to buying the solar panels. They will be included in the purchase of the house. And the homes will be all electric. So your heating bill, as well as your water heating and your lights and appliances, are all electric using energy efficient equipment. But typically your bills will be higher in the winter when the sun doesn't shine as much and you're not generating as much renewable energy and you need more energy for heating the house. And then your bills will be less in the summer, hopefully zero, when the sun is shining and you don't need to use as much energy for heating the house. So budgeting for those winter electric bills is important. If you're eligible for fuel assistance now, you can apply for fuel assistance again in the future and have for your electric bill. Any other questions? Income ranges can vary by project. So if you maybe are off by just a little bit this time, it might be worth checking again on a future project to see if that one's a better fit. I'm going to put the email and phone number in the chat again and encourage folks to write them down. And they're also right on the application. If you have questions, reach out. If we play phone tag, feel free to text or email and say, when can we set up a time to talk on the phone? If that's a better way for you to ask questions. We want you to get the answers you need to keep your application moving forward. Sometimes the answer is, it depends. Please show me your documentation. And I know that's frustrating because it takes work to do these applications, but that we want to make sure we don't tell you the wrong thing. Well, we're really excited about these houses in Pelham. They are just about a block away from the elementary school and the public library. It's on a quiet side street. It's near Amherst. I think this is going to be a great place to live, and I hope that some folks will be able to put down roots here in the community and find their forever home. All right. Well, thank you so much to my co-presenters. Thank you, Sophie, for keeping the slides moving. And don't forget, August 4th is your deadline. All right. Have a great Saturday, everyone.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.